Oh, goody.
Alright, what's up everybody? It is Zombies here again, and today we are going over another Meta Monday, taking a look at some decks here, some team comps, and seeing what's kind of been popular in the meta as of late. Things have changed up a little bit. There's still a lot of Valeera, for sure. However, there have been some new developments with some new comps that have been fairly successful in the current meta we've been seeing. The first of which we're going to take a look at here is Orcs. So looking at Orcs here, I actually went over this one in one of my recent team comps, but I've been really liking Orcs. This is the build that uses the Thrall equipment to give additional health when your units, well, I guess Orcs specifically, are attacked, and that has proven to be very strong against Valeera when paired with scaling from Thrall himself, as well as Sorrowfang and Garrosh. Scaling himself up can also buff your other Orcs, so you can make some really big Orcs. And then in the back you have Gul'dan and Diablo to kind of get some nice healing combos going. You can Apocalypse into Siphon Life to get a guaranteed crit on anything you want and get 32 healing. And that healing will be on all your Orcs and Demons, so it will heal up Diablo if he's out, as well as Gul'dan and any other Orcs you have sticking around. And then last but not least you got Cookie, just giving you that nice additional HP. Combos well with Diablo and gets you those good fish snipes for that nice bonus HP in the late game. So yeah, Orcs has been pretty good. If you want to see more of it in action, definitely go check out that video. I'll leave a link in the description. But yeah, if you're running into a lot of Valeera right now, Orcs is definitely something worth considering. Alright, moving on here. There are a fair amount of Frost comps that have been running around recently. So the first one we're going to look at here is actually Frost Valeera. So what this one tries to do, you may notice that our Frost units here in Jaina and Varden do not have the ability to combo with Valeera. So you actually are going to be using Fan of Knives here on your first turn. And that can be useful because sometimes you can set up a cold snap kill on turn 2 at a faster speed, which can be nice. But yeah, like a lot of other Frost builds, it's just trying to leverage the power of Jaina and Varden and get a little bit of extra speed in there with Valeera. Sometimes you can also consider a Karen opener, but the main time I'd be doing that is if you know your opponent has maybe like a Thrall with Doomhammer, and you know he can kind of one-shot your Valeera early on. So in that case, you might want to keep it in the back. Otherwise, Valeera is a pretty solid lead with this comp, and then you just have your standard Karen, Diablo, Cookie backbench. Works really well with this, especially if you get a Diablo swap in while Valeera is stealthed. Get a very fast Fire Stomp, can be pretty deadly. But yeah, it just works very well. There are quite a few frost comps this week though. So the next one here is Frost Tyrion. This is another one where I play a little bit of this comp. However, this one is a little bit of a different version than the one I was running previously. So for this one, we obviously have our Jaina and Varden. But for the third slot, we're running Tyrion. And Tyrion's really good because Ashbringer gives that +8/+8 to all mercs on the field and your bench. So that's really huge because all of our backline here, Karen, Diablo, Illidan, they can all like physically attack, so they gain quite a lot from that +8/+8. Tyrion also has some very solid utility in Blessing of Kings, can be really strong to protect the Jaina early on, and shrinking a big threat. This was really good when Samuro was more popular, and now with other things like Thrall running around, and I guess Orcs too. Now that Orcs are getting a little bit more popular, having something that can scale down a big threat in the early game is very, very strong. And yeah, you basically just want to try and kill off your Tyrion as soon as possible. Sometimes you can get the death blow for that Divine Shield, which can be very nice, but it's more of a bonus. And then in the back, when Karen, Diablo, and Illidan are all buffed, They are actually a real big pain to deal with. You can keep scaling Illidan up once or twice and then get in with some crazy outcast attacks for healing or Blade Dance to just pretty much wipe the board. Then Diablo will scale really well because as things die, he gets even bigger. And then Karen, just general speed manipulation between Earth Stomp and Endurance Aura. So yeah, it's Frost Tyrion, a little bit different than the version I was playing. I was running Rag over Illidan, and I think that version can be good, especially if you're running into a lot of other Frost comps, but I do think Illidan definitely leverages the buffs better than Ragnaros does. Alright, and then next up we have a kind of OG mercenary list here in Mam, Malfurion, Anduin, Mukla. This list still seems to be doing pretty decent in the current meta. So basically what you're trying to do here, you're keeping your Anduin safe behind Mukla and his big brother, and then you're basically using the healing between Anduin and Malfurion with the nature abilities on himself and Mukla to scale your Anduin up to a ridiculous point where they just can't really deal with it until the end of the game potentially. And then as you lose units, we are swapping in things like Cookie and Smurrow for kind of like the mid game, and then Sylvanas is kind of our end game finisher, who will have hopefully gained a bit more triggers for reclaimed souls off of the extra units we've spawned here. And yeah, that's the gist of it. This is pretty good if you're seeing a lot of the, I think, nature backlines. I think this does alright against them. Having 2 greens against 2 blues in the back can be very strong. But you sometimes, I think, can have problems against the Karen Diablo Cookie line, but it really depends on what happens in the early game for the most part, because if your Anduin and Malf are looking healthy, this comp can be just a total pain to deal with, and I think, if I remember correctly, it also does pretty well into Valeera. Alright, moving on here. Now we're down to, I think, the last Frost comp we have. So, much like the others, Jaina Varden, this one is actually focusing about the Lich King. So the idea with this one is to make them super duper slow. I think this is actually the version I played a little while ago in one of the Coin Concede games I was playing for that tournament. But the Lich King slow is just so devastating, and that heal can be pretty nice. Try and heal up your Jaina and keep her around a little bit longer. Then in the back, we're in a little bit of a different backline here. I think with the Lich King version of this, you can experiment with the backline a lot. I also want to try nature on this, but nature would make you have too many blues. You'd have 4 blues, and I think that's too many. But yeah, so far I've been liking it like this. We're actually running Illidan and Valeera in the back. So again, kind of the reason for this is with the rise in popularity of the nature backlines. I've really liked having some more fighter heavy ones that have been pretty good. And obviously Cookie, just that extra health is really clutch in the beginning of the game, late game, and his snipes are really good. But yeah, this one kind of tries to leverage Illidan and Valeera at the end. The important thing to know about it is you definitely want to be strategic with when you bring in your Valeera, as the only unit that can naturally combo her without any other speed up is Cookie. So that is the only kind of thing to be aware of for this comp. You do have to be aware of when you're bringing her in, what you're going to do with her and what's on the board, kind of threatening her, because you can't just go into stealth as easily as you can in some of the other Valeera comps. But I found the Lich King is really strong against some of the Valeera openers, just because once you get 1 or 2 slows, it just makes their Valeera stuff a lot less good. Because they may be going for faster, but their main ability they're trying to spam is now, 5 slower permanently. Hit them twice, it's 10 slower. It really makes a difference in the long term. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. This is definitely one of my favorite Frost comps, so definitely recommend giving it a shot. Now, the kind of flavor of the week here, kind of my most popular recent build has been this fire build. I honestly, when I was putting it together, I thought it was like a little bit of a meme, and maybe it is, but it can actually win games. Dallas actually took it to 14K at the end of last season, going 6-1 with it, and it just seemed really strong. Maybe part of that is because people are kind of confused and not sure how to play against fire comp. That definitely could be part of it, but I've played around with it quite a few times, and it can win games. It's also really fun to play. So in this version of the build, we actually substituted Antonidas for Tavish. The biggest downside with that is it can kind of mess up our fire combo on turn 1, as if they do have a Grom slow, Ragnaros is our only enabler on turn 1 for the Geddon AoE. So unfortunately, if they slow Rag, we'll get a combo off on Magma Blast, but not the AoE like we want. So that's the only downside with Tavish. You can't use his only a fire ability on turn 1. So that's a little unfortunate, but Tavish is just a really strong character, and he can basically just win games on his own, especially against some of the more annoying Frost comps. And Rag also is really good against Frost too, because he is preventing them from engaging with their freezing shenanigans while he's alive. And one kind of cool interaction is if Rag dies to a free effect that would freeze you or your other mercs, even though he is dying, the freeze effect won't hit your other guys, which is kind of cool. But yeah, Tavish is really good. I like him better than Antonidas because the meta is so Valeera heavy. Antonidas would just get sniped down a lot of the time, and he just felt like he was dying too quickly without doing enough. But I'm hoping we get another Fire Mercenary soon. We're getting Dragons soon, so I'm hoping we get 1 or 2 more good Fire units in there, because I think Fire could have some serious potential. It just needs one more like really good starting unit, and then maybe we put like Tavish in the back or something. But for the backline, we're running the Karen Diablo cookie standard stuff here. You could probably also try nature backline with this and have it work out pretty well, I'd imagine. But generally, I've just tried the Karen Diablo cookie one, and it seems to be working pretty well for me. So yeah, this is one where if you want a comp that is also good at dealing with PvE and PvP, definitely recommend grinding up the fire comp. Next up, we have one that if you've been playing ladder at all in the last like 2 weeks, you've probably seen a lot of this. So this is the Thrall Valeera Corn build, and this one actually has Doomhammer on the Thrall. Unfortunately, the change, they haven't changed it yet with Mercenaries, where your mercs have specific equipment per comp they're in. It's just general. So I have this on for the Orc one, but for this build you do want Doomhammer. And basically this one just gets out a lot of damage early on. Thrall with the Doomhammer is really, really scary against pretty much everything, whether it's super effective or not. Then we have Grom here to get your Staggering Slam, which can be really annoying, messing up your opponent's plan, and triggering the combo on Valeera to get your speed up stealth shenanigans going. Really, really strong. Definitely one of the kind of top decks in the meta right now, I'd say. And it's running that nature backline, so Malfurion, Brucon, and Cookie just gets that nice healing and damage scaling going into the late game, and traditionally can be pretty good against other Karen Diablo Cookie backlines. So this is definitely like a mainstay of the meta right now, and even with some things like Orcs and stuff popping up, I don't think it's going to be enough to kind of make this disappear, because it's just really, really strong right now. Alright, then we get to Shadow Valeera. So this is actually our only comp with anything Shadow this week, and it's funny how things change, right? Because if we remember looking back a few weeks ago, before Valeera, Shadow were some of the most dominant units in the game, and now really I haven't seen them very much at all on ladder. Maybe like 1 comp out of 10, 1 comp out of like 8 or something. It's very uncommon. But this is another build that I've seen some of where it is Valeera, Natalie, Grom. So again, using those units to combo with Valeera early on. Grom just a all-star post buff with Valeera, And Natalie helps enable some shadow and healing shenanigans. So we do actually have Vol'jin here to combo with her off the bench. And then for our last 2 units, we're actually running Diablo Blinkfox. Blinkfox can enable some really nutty shenanigans with Mana Blink if you time it off correctly. And Mind Thief can be a really, really busted ability. I'm not the biggest fan of it because it relies a lot on RNG, but I've lost to it enough times to know it can be insanely powerful, so it's at least worth trying out. And then, yeah, you're just kind of using your Diablo with the Blinkfox here to potentially speed up those fire stomps. And, you know, Diablo is just a generally good unit. Vol'jin comes in for those revenge kills and can speed up your Natalie for more combo stuff. And yeah, so it's solid. You could probably fit Sylvanas in too, potentially for Diablo. You could change this backbench a bunch. I think you definitely want the Vol'jin, but the other 2 slots are very flexible. If you wanted to try something else here, I definitely think you could get away with doing that. And I have seen variations that run very different backbenches. It's just the Vol'jin seems to be the one common overlap in these Natalie builds, which does make sense. And last but not least, we have an old favorite of mine from when Valeera first dropped. So I've been playing this again a little bit recently as the new season has just started, and it's still really solid. I do think it fell out of favor a little bit because of the dominance of Valeera Grom comps. The main reason for that is, so what this comp is trying to do is we have a Valeera Corn Illidan start, and we're using Corn as our combo enabler for Valeera to get her stealth and sped up, and then he acts as protection for our big units, letting Illidan scale, and Illidan and Valeera just get off really fast attacks, trying to kill the opponents before they can really do anything. So it's really powerful when it works. However, you do have to worry about winning a flip if you're running up into a lot of ground comps. And if they do get the slow off on our Corn turn 1, we lose that flip. It really messes up our Valeera and our whole game plan. So it is very coin flippy, much like Valeera mirrors tend to be. So that's the only downside with this comp. But other than that, it's really strong. I think Cornelius is kind of a sleeper in that he was seeing a fair amount of play before, after he got buffed, and now I think people have kind of forgotten about him a little bit, but he's still very powerful, and I think people are kind of sleeping on that right now, so I definitely want to jam some more games with this one again soon, because the scaling power with Illidan combined with the speed of Valeera is just really, really crazy, and if your opponent can't deal with the Corn healing them all the time or protecting them with Blessing of Sacrifice, like, they just run away with the game. And as is tradition here, we got that CDC backline. But again, this is a comp where you could probably get away with running nature backline or something else a little bit more adventurous, as we really just care about the first 3 units on this one, and the back is definitely more interchangeable. You could definitely get away with nature. I think nature would probably be pretty good on this comp too. But yeah, that is, I believe, our last comp here. So, didn't get to cover every single deck in the meta. I'm sure there's some out there that I have missed. But we did cover a good amount here. And I think this is going to probably be the last Meta Monday until we get another patch. Hopefully adding in some new mercs. Hopefully going to be expecting that, I think, in a week or two. Kind of early on here in January, but we'll have to wait and see, as there's been no official word on the time frame for that. But when we get new mercs, definitely expect more Meta Monday stuff. But for now, this is what the meta's kind of evolved into. Interested to see where it goes from here. I would love to hear what you think of it, how you think things are going in the meta game right now. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, do remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.